These are 10 players you must start in week 3 of fantasy football. They all are about to go crazy. This is not the week you leave them on your bench. Before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below as well as I respond to every single one. Starting at number 10 with Brandon Ayuk. Yes, Ayuk has started the season slow, but he is ready for takeoff in week 3. The 49ers have been crushed by injuries to their star players on offense. We know Christian McCaffrey's out. Debo is out with that calf. George Kittle is banged up. Like, Ayuk is all they really have left through the air in the passing game. And the matchup is juicy as the Rams have allowed the most yards and touchdowns to outside wide receivers. I'd honestly be looking to buy low on Ayuk now before he erupts in week 3. And if he's on your roster, yes, he hasn't been great, but he is a must start. Don't overthink this one. At number 9, Tony Pollard. It's clear and obvious at this point that Pollard is the workhorse back in Tennessee as he's averaging 65% of the snaps, 20.5 touches, and 98 total yards per game, and is the RB13 in fantasy. He honestly looks like a completely different player from last year as he was still recovering from that gruesome leg injury that he suffered on that brutal hip drop tackle, but he finally looks fully back. He looks 100%. He looks really good. And he could see even more work this week with Spears battling an injury and he's listed as questionable. Pollard looks like he has his juice back. He's explosive, ranking 20th in explosive run rate, 11th in yards after contact per attempt. Against the Packers defense that has been burned by Saquon Barkley and JT so far this year, allowing them to each go over 100 rushing yards. That all being said, I can confidently say Pollard will go over 60.5 rushing yards, which is his line right now on Underdog. If you haven't joined Underdog yet, what are you doing? Sign up right now. Use my code ROC. They will match you up to $100. So if you put in 100, you'll get 100 back. You can put in $10 if you want, and you'll get 10 back. It's a no-brainer, and you can also take advantage of another pick, which is CeeDee Lamb over 0.5 yards, which I can pretty confidently say that is going to hit as well. So go over to Underdog, join now, and it honestly just makes Sundays even more fun. At number 8, Xavier Worthy had a fantastic NFL debut in week 1 and then was relatively quiet last week. But with Kansas City losing their star running back in Isaiah Pacheco for the foreseeable future, they're going to put the football in Patrick Mahomes' hands. They're going to throw the ball more, and that is going to benefit Worthy. I think he's going to be a big part of their game plans going forward. In a potential high-scoring game against the Falcons, we know that offense can put up points. If you need a high upside flex play, then look no further than Worthy. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if he has one of those 45, 50-yard touchdowns. He's explosive. He can score at any moment. And when you're attached to Patrick Mahomes on a really good Kansas City offense that's likely going to throw the football more, and you're a young, explosive player, then that is really appealing if you need a guy to plug into your flex, because Worthy can go off at any moment. At number 7, Jameson Williams. His breakout season is here to stay, and Williams is off to a scorching start. 24 fantasy points in week 1, 14 fantasy points in week 2, along with a 24% target share, 47% air yard share, 2.63 yards per route run, and a 34% first read share. Like, this is a revelation. I feel like Goff at times is looking for Williams more than he's looking for St. Brown. It's kind of crazy. I mean, Jameson has 9+ targets in both games and looks to be a big part of this offense going forward. He's the clear-cut number 2 option on this team, and he's honestly entered must-start territory. He has massive weekly upside because of his situation, the offense that he's on, the talent that he has. So if you're a Williams owner, do whatever it takes to get him in your lineup, or try to trade for JMO now if you don't have him on your team before he goes off again. At number 6, George Pickens is on the cusp of a massive breakout and needs to be started everywhere this week. He honestly should have went nuts last week if it wasn't for several costly penalties, but this Pickens and Fields connection is going to be electric. We've already seen flashes. George has a 25% target share, 53% air yard share, 2.78 yards per route run, and 32% first read share, while ranking 2nd in separation and 3rd in route win rate. He's an alpha wide receiver in this league, and if you're smart, you're trying to get him on your team immediately before week 3. I think Pickens should have no problem picking apart this Chargers secondary this week. I think this is the week he explodes for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Get him on your team, and if you have him, you are starting him. At number 5, T. Higgins. I have no problem plugging Higgins into your lineup, even though it's his first game back from that hamstring injury. Obviously, make sure he plays first, but he's been limited in practice. He's trending towards playing. It's just because the matchup is too good to pass up on against a Washington secondary that's the worst in the league. If you really need a wide receiver, or if you just want to get a guy in your lineup that could go off against a really bad defense and Higgins is your guy, I'd honestly be starting every single Cincinnati Bengal you have. Zach Moss, Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, they all need to be in your lineup. The Bengals are 0-2. They've started slow, but this is the game that Cincinnati gets right. This is the game that they put up 48 points on a really bad defense, and it wouldn't be surprising at all if T. Higgins scores a touchdown and has a really solid game. At number 4, DJ Moore. Yes, if you're a DJ owner, it's been terribly frustrating. This Bears offense has been really hard to watch. Caleb Williams is struggling. This offensive line looks horrendous. The play calling has been poor under new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. It is a mess, but Moore is still seeing nice volume, 27% target share, 36% of the air yard share, and 31% of the first read share. And with Keenan Allen once again out, the Bears are going to rely heavily on Moore, who was visibly upset in week 2. This feels like a squeaky wheel game where DJ looked noticeably frustrated. I think he has a strong outing with Caleb Williams. I think they get on the same page against a Colts secondary that's very beatable, as they've allowed the 5th most PPR points per target to perimeter wide receivers. I know it hasn't been pretty. I know it hasn't been fun, but the volume has been there. And with Allen out again, it's going to continue to be there. DJ Moore's a nice player. Don't be surprised if Moore has a really strong game in week 3. At number 3, Jackson Smith-Njigba finally bursted onto the scene with an all-world performance. This is a guy that we've been talking about all offseason, that we could not draft enough of, that we knew that with this new coaching staff, this new offensive coordinator, that he was going to explode, and we saw it in week 2, which was really nice to see. 12 catches for 117 yards on 16 targets, 23.7 fantasy points. This is going to continue. This was not a fluke. He set career highs in targets, catches, routes run, snaps, and yards. Finally under an intelligent offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb, who knows how to utilize his wide receivers, something that Shane Waldron didn't know how to do, and frankly, something that Waldron is struggling to figure out in Chicago. And at this point, JSN is Seattle's wide receiver 2. Tyler Lockett is old, is washed. So if you're still worried about Tyler Lockett, don't be. Like, this was the breakout game. JSN is not going anywhere. And Miami has allowed the 8th highest PPR points per target to slot wide receivers this season. Start JSN with confidence going forward, and I think he has another monster performance in week 3. At number 2, Brock Bowers. I mean, if you have Bowers on your team, you are starting him. There's not many good tight ends right now in fantasy, and Bowers is looking like one of the best, if not the best. He's a tight end 2 in fantasy right now, as he has 0.1 less points right now than Isaiah Likely. But Bowers has been magnificent. He has 12 catches for 125 yards in his first 2 games, which is the most receiving yards in Raiders history among tight ends in their first 2 career games, along with having 8+ targets in both games, only 1 less target than Devontae Adams on the year. Like, he has been sensational. 25% target share, 26% air yard share, and is seeing elite usage for not only a tight end, but for a rookie tight end. 71% of the routes through the first 2 weeks. He has been absolutely dominant and is on his way to a Sam Laporta type of season, and he will continue his hot streak against a terrible Carolina defense that's allowed over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns to the tight end position right now. So start Bowers with confidence, and if you drafted him, props to you. Nice work, and now you are reaping the benefits of that incredible pick. At number 1, Chris Olave. Yes, he's gotten off to a cold start with 15.9 combined fantasy points through the first 2 weeks, but this Saints offense is on absolute fire, and it's Olave's turn to go crazy in week 3. But remember, Chris was inches away from a touchdown last week and led the Saints in target share with 37%, air yard share with 57% against the Cowboys defense that they destroyed. They didn't really need to do much in the second half, and the Saints have now been a part of 2 blowout games where they go crazy in the first half and then they don't really need to do much. So what do we think is going to happen when the Saints get in a competitive game, in a shootout, or in a game where they're trailing? I think we see a close one this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be close. And I think the Saints are going to need a lot from Chris Olave to win the game against the suspect Philadelphia secondary that has surrendered the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers this season. This is going to be Olave's breakout game. Don't leave him on your bench. This is another guy. Buy low now on Olave. He's one of my favorite buy low targets, but please start him with confidence and enjoy the fantasy points that he is about to rack up. Now quickly onto some bonus starts. I think you should start Cam Akers with Joe Mixon out if you need a running back play. Jordan Mason is a lock to be started every single week. I'm getting questions about, do I start Mason? Do I not? Yes. Start Jordan Mason every single week and then reevaluate once Christian McCaffrey comes back. But he is a lock. He is a must start. I also like Khalil Shakir this week. I think he has a big game. So those are some other guys I'm really high on that you need to get into your lineup. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you took away anything from the video, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will see you in the next one.